Once again, I want to show you where you can find the other text that we're going to use right now. We're not going to use it for the entire year, but we used it last week, unbeknownst to you, because that's where we get the notes from. And then you're using it this week as well. So if you go to my website under classwork and you find links, websites, PDFs, you want to go down to We the People. You click on that, and this is a PDF. And again, we're going to be using it mainly for lessons 2, 3, 4, 5. This book, the structure of the book is lessons as opposed to chapters. And so we may return to this book later on, but right now, Unit 1, we skipped Lesson 1. I gave you notes on Lesson 2 and 3. Today is going to be 4 and 5. Okay, so you're going to do Cornell notes again. I said that we wouldn't do a lot of Cornell notes, but I failed to mention that we were going to do them for the first part of this textbook in Unit 1, Lesson 2, 3, 4, and 5. So you're going to set up your Cornell notes. You need a piece of paper. You actually need two pieces of paper because I'm going to do, it says chapter, but it's lesson 4, and then I'm going to do lesson 5. There's the EQ, by the way. What is a constitutional government? So once again, the EQ, what is a constitutional government? Remember, you should abbreviate. Uh, I like the structure of this book because it has like secondary questions, so it makes it easier to do Cornell notes. So these are the only three secondary questions. So you could probably fit everything on one side of the notes. And so, what is a constitution? I'm going to give you that. What is a constitutional government, and what is a higher law? All right. So the first question in the column: what is a constitution? It's a legal framework for how a government is organized and run. Usually is written, okay? And like I mentioned last week, our particular constitution was written on a type of paper, parchment paper, which was treated. Anyways, um, within the constitution, and most, if not all, countries have a constitution, you'll find information about government officials, elections, um, citizenship. On to the second question in the column: what is a constitutional government? It limits the power of the government. The American Constitution states these limits. And remember, or maybe you don't know, the colonists were under a monarchy. So they had a king, and they feared of the king. And so when the founders put together a constitution, they had that in the back of their brain. Okay, they didn't want one person to have too much power. Um, and then some governments who have a constitution, they still have unlimited power for people. Dictatorial governments are an example of that. And finally, the other secondary question, you're going to have a little bit more for this one, by the way. A higher law. It's a set of laws to establish and limit the power of government. And within this, I'm going to have 5 characteristics. Number 1, basic rights for citizens: life, liberty, property. Uh, you can add a fourth one, pursuit of happiness. Number 2, the establishment of the responsibility of the government, and that is to protect the rights of the citizens. Number 3, power limits. So the government may not prevent freedom of speech within reason. You cannot go into like a crowded theater and yell fire as a joke. And you can't have threatening statements to certain people at certain times. The government may not take property unless necessary, and the government has to repay anything that they've taken. I don't know if you've ever watched like a cop show or something where the cop is like, "I'm going to commandeer your vehicle." Okay, that could happen. Doesn't often though. And the government must give fair trials. Private domain as opposed to public. And so the government must mind their own business. You've seen this a lot in recent years, especially in TikTok and events that have happened in the last decade, where people are challenging authority, mainly the cops, um, about I don't. You don't have a right to search my car. You don't have a right to search my house. And these are rights that you have as a citizen. And the last thing that's very interesting for our Constitution is we can amend the Constitution, we can change it. And so the only way for that to happen is widespread consent of government officials, and then they follow a set of procedures. Okay, I believe the last time we amended the Constitution, and really we were adding to it, I think it is Amendment 27, and it's in the 90s. Remember to do your summary and remember to revisit your notes by chunking them, circling, highlighting, etc.